Hey everyone, Sawmill Charlie. Hope you can hear me. I am running remotely tonight. I am down in Virginia with Bill here at Shenandoah Bee Supply, and hopefully everybody can hear me at that time. Um, so go ahead and drop the link and all of that. So just hold on for a minute. Let me get squared away. It's a little bit harder to manipulate with a laptop, especially this one. Let me see. Where is YouTube? Bear with me here. Where is YouTube? Oh, there we go.
Hey, we got something working.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Boy, there's a gruesome twosome.
Did Will? Did you see the link to be able to get in?
Yeah, it blew through the chat here.
I'm trying. It's hard to get through all this.
Mute one of them. Safely landed at the Comfort Inn in Woodstock, Virginia.
Cool. If I known you were going to be here in time, we could have had you out here too.
You guys are like echoing. Somebody's got to turn one of them mics off.
There.
Sounding better now?
Here we go.
I hope our travel home tomorrow is as clean as the travel down, Charlie.
You're on a different machine.
Yeah,
Oh, we're not echoing or anything now.
Yeah, we killed the crickets.
Yeah, you sound good there, Bill.
Can you hear me, Bill? Will?
Yeah, I can hear you. Charlie's pretty distant.
That's because I got speakers turned off. No, they're on. They're on. What did I do?
What's that? Did you hear it?
Oh,
I'm
I
on
got Charlie not
StreamYard.
too bad there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Bill.
Will?
Yep, I got you, Bill. And Charlie's not too bad there.
Oh, wait a minute. I know what the problem is. I know it's major malfunction. Hold on. Now I can hear you, Will. Say something.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. I got you.
I'm looking for Charlie to do his little bluegrass "It's Not Gonna Snow on Us" dance later.
They're only calling for rain tomorrow.
Okay, good.
He's already done the dance.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Charlie.
And there it is, finally.
He's cooking with gas now.
All right. Are we on that one?
We're on both of them.
Yeah, you're echoing again.
Mute. All right, can everybody hear me now? Okay, good. I'm going to use Bill's microphone. Oh, there we are down there at the bottom.
Yeah, we're at the
Yeah.
bottom.
That isn't bad, the two of you there.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do this then. We stop the cam. How about that? There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Now you can turn the volume up, I guess.
It's all the way up. There. That better?
Yep. I can hear you.
That's better. Well, everybody, welcome tonight. A little bit of a setup problem. That's because when you're used to 30-inch screens and you go back down to a 14-inch screen and you got to work YouTube side and StreamYard side at the same time, it's a little bit hectic here. And I don't have Lee here in the background helping me out. So anyway, thought we would get something done here tonight. Hey, Keith and Joey and Mike and who else we got? We got Clay and we got Bill right there.
And JT's on tonight.
And hey, David. And let's see. We got DC. Hey, there's Tom and Melissa. Highland Honey. Hey, Billy. And we're scrolling down. Here's Ryan. We need spring already. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, Ryan. I think it's going to be, it looks like to me, even my local weather in Maryland, chief meteorologist said it was going to be a cold February. And here comes Joseph.
Hey, Joseph. How are you?
How y'all doing?
Good.
We're doing good.
I'll be back in a minute. I got to get my paperwork.
I was sure he's gonna say popcorn.
Oh, he's got that sitting on the floor in here. And I got
Joe,
mine right here.
I'm so glad, Joey, there's not snow in your picture. It's a relief. At least it's warm somewhere.
It'll probably be a long time before you see more snow on mine.
See there? I got the popcorn.
There it is.
Yeah, I made sure he had plenty of popcorn.
Yeah. And Bill actually made it too. And it's not Jiffy Pop either. He actually put a pot on the stove and made it. I'd never seen that. And all that. So anyway. So Joseph, how's things down your way?
It's all good. I hadn't been in any more hives though. I probably should have, but I hadn't been in any more. Just been kind of watching them, seeing a lot of orientation going on.
Yeah. But that time of year down there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting close.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead.
I saw one of the videos you put out the other day.
Trying to remove one of the deeps out.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was a pretty good video.
changed my. I appreciate it. Changed my mind.
So anyway, I traveled down here today at Bill's place. He's going to have a class. I'm going to help him teach him a little bit about the demery, I believe, tomorrow.
Yep. He's going to do his demeray, and I'm going to do mine, doing a couple other splits. And I'm going to try to get it all videoed, if at all possible.
And
Good.
so anyway, we hung out to the bee his bee store today and helped him unload a few pallets worth of bee supplies, and then we took a trip to his farm and throughout the valley down here, and some beehives. We didn't actually get into any bees, but we did take a look at them and all that. Hey, there's Nancy. Hey, Nancy. I don't think so, Nancy. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Here comes Philip in. Let me see if I can get down here. There's
Hey, Philip.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, I got your email the other day.
Hold on. I forgot to mute YouTube. There we go. Sorry about that.
Well, you were the
I
only
got
one that
your
knew it.
email when you texted it to me. I just want to let you know.
Did you send me an email? I haven't looked at my email today.
No, I haven't sent an email yet, but I got your email. So
and all that.
I like those inner covers you built, Philip. Those are nice.
Yeah, thanks. I decided I need to do a video on something.
What type of inner covers did you have, Philip?
Oh, they're kind of like a standard inner cover, but I've got a divider down the middle so I can use them with my 2 queen nukes.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Was it you? I think I just seen something. Somebody else had. It was a vendor somewhere that was showing something like that. That they inner cover that it would hit the splice and all that stuff.
Yeah, the holes also, I made them the size that would fit a mason jar lid, so I could do feeders on if I'm doing like if I'm raising queens or something like that.
Mhm.
Like feed each side separately.
That's a good idea.
Hey, Roy,
Yeah.
and hey, Amber.
And something, I don't know if anybody builds that kind of stuff, but I've used some political signs for the panels instead of plywood.
Yeah, the coroplast.
Yeah, the core. Yeah.
Yeah, they look good after you painted them all up.
I wished I had more of those because I could use that for a lot of stuff. Because I use, underneath my telescoping outed covers, I could use them, and I could use them all over the place.
Hmm.
But I ran out. I didn't get enough of them. So,
I got a few from a boy at church. His sister had ran for something, and when it was all over, I asked him, I said, do y'all mind if I pick up some of those political signs? I said, no, y'all be picking them up. And I said, are you going to keep them for next time? I said, no, we're throwing them all away. He said, I got a trunk load. You want them? I went, he still had them in his vehicle right there at church. I got a stack that thick.
Oh, my. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, just
yeah.
go around and check your local politicians. Maybe they got a whole.
Yeah, they got all kinds of them things right now.
The 4x8 sheets at Home Depot, that stuff costs $35.
Yeah, it is. It's expensive. You buy it at Home
Really?
Depot or Lowe's.
Doesn't somebody make a winter cover that wraps around the hive out of that stuff, out of that coroplast? It's black.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen that years ago.
The wind would not blow through it.
Yeah, it was a sleeve, and they put the sleeve over top the hive.
I wouldn't pass the bedding, Brian.
The guy up there in Vermont, or not Vermont, but New Hampshire, did it for a while. He's not on the internet much anymore. And then Rawl is his last name. He was a young Canadian beekeeper commercial, and now he works, I think, for the University of Florida or Georgia, one of the two. And he was using them back in a day. But now everybody's kind of going towards the insulation, wrapping the hives with 1.5 or inches insulation and stuff like that, and all that. So, hey there, Brian, Flower Street. And Brian says maybe Philip can run for Congress.
He's got plenty of coroplast down there. He can make his own signs.
If they start digging around my background, I get disqualified pretty fast.
Yeah. Now, let's see.
Just real quick, while we got a quick minute here, I got new pricing from Nod Apiaries today. Florent Pro prices are going to go up drastically. So y'all be prepared for that this year.
Yeah, Brian C., the Vino Farm, that was one of the guys that did that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, what was Ripple? Yeah, Ripple was talking about, which is Joseph, about tar paper that Palmer used. And some people use that, but I don't know. I don't think it really has any. It might be a wind barrier, but it sure isn't any far as heat-wise, keeping it hive warm.
I wrapped a third of mine in just tar paper, and then the rest of them I have at least one layer of double bubble around them and tar paper. I was just going to kind of see what the difference is.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's more of a wind barrier. It's also supposedly a solar gain because it's black. But if you get a chance to watch Bill Heschbeck with the condensing hive, he'll go over the percentages of all these different types of so-called insulations. Even the bee cozies, he was stating that they were not all that efficient, which I found that quite interesting.
I figure the tar paper just is a wind block, so it's not going to get through any seams. It's not going to get any through anything with that. That's all I figured for.
I had a lady, she wanted me to, show her product, and what it was it was a wrap that went around the hive. It had snaps on it, and it was kind of like the double bubble that Ian uses, that silvery looking stuff. And then she sewed that into a non-rips nylon outer shell. And my question is, what's the R value of that? Maybe 1, maybe 2 at the most. I mean, it was more of I got it on one of the hives. The hive that sits behind the barn, but it's close enough to the end, it might catch some wind, so it'll block some wind off that hive.
Hey, Rodney.
Has anybody been in their hives to see if, with the commercial loss that they're talking about, is anybody else seeing losses like that? I'm not so far, but.
I'm definitely not.
Yeah. We just brought up the double bubble stuff. The R value is one R value, so it's not even.
Bill, there's a thermal shield on Amazon that you can get in. I think it's a 3 millimeter, a 5 millimeter, a 10 millimeter, and you might even be able to get it thicker than that. And they list an R value on there I have a hard time believing.
Yeah, I just typed in with a 1-inch air gap in the double bubble as well, and it stays at 1.
Well, isn't it double bubble, you call it? It's actually a barrier. It's not necessarily insulation.
Right.
It's designed to actually reflect heat back away from anything.
Yes.
That's its original design.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the bubbles do a little bit, trapping some air in it, but it's not going to do much. A 1-inch airspace is an R1 also.
I kind of like the insulation on top is, I think, where it's important.
This year I put it's the first year that I actually put insulation on the top of my hive.
I was trying to highlight Brian C. there. I got so used to clicking on people's comments. It's a radiant barrier.
Yes.
Now, Brian, now if anybody really wants to get into the specifications and stuff, Brian C., go to his live channel, and he has condensing hives. That's where I got my idea from, the observation inner cover, and he monitors heat and humidity and weight, and watches for the varroa, and also with hive beetles. He's down in Memphis, and his statistics are quite interesting and all. And he also, I think, has a couple hives that are just running wooden. You got a comparison of some licensed insulated hives, some wooden hives, and you're able to see where the bees are in his hives because of those observations.
Holy smokes.
And all that. So it works quite well.
Dang it. I don't know if this will pick up or not. Look at my weather next week, Tuesday through Friday. Y'all see that?
It's 49 to
27, 25, and 41.
But it says 113, 124.
That's the highs.
What's the 114?
Hold on. Dang it. I lost it. Let's see. The low on Tuesday is 14. The low on Wednesday is 13. The low on Thursday is 24. And the low on Friday is 31. That's 4 days that's going to drop below freezing. That hadn't happened here in a long time. The highs are 40s, the high 20s to the low 40s.
That's about what I'm going to have next week. I'm going to be just a tad warmer though.
But we're not.
And Jeff
we're not
there,
used
he's
to it.
lost 6 out of 18. 2 of them were kind of weak, and lost 2 to starvation, and the other 2, I'm not sure yet. And
Yeah.
I tell you, you know, that starvation thing. This year, I actually went into my hives a lot earlier, late January, 1st of February at the latest. It was like the last weekend of January, and I feed a lot in the fall, and those several of them hives I felt they were very close to starvation. And now I've been using sugar bricks and pollen patties with rocket fuel in them, some global patties, and I just found it quite interesting that this year, for some reason, that usually my hives get through the winter with no problem at all. But maybe some of the problems I've had in the past were starvation, and I didn't, kind of get into them early enough. Something to think about. Try to get in there around 45 degrees and just, take a real quick peek, pull some frames up. I like this. I had several hives were double deeps because I didn't transition them to mediums this spring when I put them in. And I pulled up some center frames, and they were empty. I mean, they might have had a little bit of honey in the real far up north top corners, and that was it. And I actually found a couple frames of honey that I pulled over from the side and put it right next to the cluster, which, helped out. I think that was prior to that really cold week we had. And then you guys down in the deep south got snow that week too. And something to think about, something that you had to kind of put in your back of your mind for next year, about getting into your hives a little earlier if the weather cooperates and everything.
Yep.
Well, March, don't they say March is when your bees starve? And Charlie,
I'm going to put it to you this way. This year, I think February would have been some of my hives, my 10 framers would have died out.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I'm getting at, is that I really think that I lucked out by getting into them, because I was saying I was going to go in there and put pollen patties on.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I got into them because I had bought 3 of the observation covers. I had a chance to put them on and went ahead and did that because the weather was warm enough. And that's when I discovered those hives that I happened to choose and all that. So,
well, you talked me into getting into them early this year, and I usually have that candy board on for insurance, and I can't believe how they've torn into that already in the hives.
Oh yeah,
they are ripping. Now they won't eat all that candy board, but they're ripping through it.
We've already gone through a 50-pound box of fondant.
Hey, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured Russell Koopman must be coming down to Texas since it's getting cold again. He came down and brought all that snow to Alabama. And he's brought it here before. It's not his first time. His daughter lives in Waco, I think. But look what we let's see if I can.
Maybe he's coming to see you.
Look what we got in store for tomorrow. Let's see if I can show that.
Let me see if I can blow it up.
56 today, no. 67 Saturday.
No, look at Saturday's high and the Saturday's low.
Is 127 degrees? That's your high?
67 to 27.
Yes, 67 dropping to 27 tomorrow.
40 degree spread from high to low.
That's a line. That's a slash mark in between them.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a
21 mile an hour winds. Phil,
that's normal in Texas. They use wind.
Phil, I'm having a hard time having too much compassion for you because next week looks like my highs are all in the 30s and some highs are in the 20s.
We're just trying to fit in down here. I've been sitting there listening to you guys talk about all the snow and rain and cold and all that.
Well, if you want snow, rain, and cold, you come right on up here and feel free. You can help push snow next week.
Y'all gonna laugh at me, but yesterday it was 55, cloudy, and windy, and it had just rained all night. And I got out. I said my yard needs mowing. I got out mowing my yard just like this, and in about 15 minutes, I had to get off the mower, go in the house, and get a light jacket to put on. That wind, that cold wind, and that damp air was making me cold.
Yeah, well,
That's because you were going too fast on that lawnmower.
Yeah, I was wide
Well, you were mowing the grass.
You were just clipping the tops off.
I have never mowed grass. I bush hog, but I have never mowed grass with a jacket on till yesterday.
really. I do that all the
Try to get a
time.
bunch of painting done before the cold weather hits.
But talking about bees starving around March 1st, you've heard me talk about that before. We have a little bit of starvation problems, not necessarily starving out, but eating up all their stores. Just yesterday, I talked to a neighbor because I don't have red maple right around me to watch, but I called him just down the road and he went and checked his tree line. He's got red maple just starting to bloom around us. So when that red maple picks up, they get to really building up brood then. And then all of a sudden we'll lose a week or two of flow. And they'll use up a lot of stores after they get that brood built up and nothing coming in. You'll lose a lot of stores real quick, right like that. I've seen it happen more than once. Frames that had honey in it during splitting time that I planned on using for food for splits were empty frames when I went to them around second week of March, first week of March.
Yeah, last week my bees were bringing in a little bit of nectar. A week before,
Clay, that's shit.
wasn't much, but a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, but now like this week, the last 2 Mondays, it's been warm for me. I'll say around 45, somewhere in that neighborhood. And actually, this past Monday, it was around 41 degrees, but for some reason, it just really felt warm. And actually, the bees were flying. And I got out there again a little bit before lunch and a little bit after lunch. And I checked all my hives again and for sugar bricks and pollen patties. And far as most of them, I'll say maybe 2 or 3 of them, I had to put extra pollen, or not pollen, but sugar bricks on them. But the rest of them, every one of them needed a pollen patty. Now I've been cutting the pollen patties in half, which they're about 6 inches long, and pretty much all I had was paper left on most of the hives. And so I bought 20 pounds of pollen from out at Nobby, and it's all gone. It's all in the hive. So Bill has plenty of pollen. So I got myself a 40-pound box that I'm going to take home tomorrow and all that. But that's something quite interesting. I mean, I presume that they're definitely raising brood as much as they're, taking it down. I have not had any kind of weather to be able to actually go in there and do any pulling a frame up or two just to kind of look. I mean, other than the fact, maybe a top frame if I think it's empty. And because of the weather, it's been kind of chilly, and usually sometimes it was windy. So something to think about, depending on where you're located at. in your area and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm sure Joe's down there. Don't you have natural pollen coming in now?
Yes.
So you don't have to worry
Plenty
about
of pollen.
patties at all.
Nope.
Yeah, we had some coming in too, but I think this cold is going to keep them from being able to go get it.
Well, that's the thing. Why I did it on Monday was the only window of opportunity because Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, I had another 4 inches of snow. And, but now I will have to say the next day it did get up above freezing and it was kind of a wet snow. And I did scrape the blacktop off and stuff like that with the tractor. And it was pretty much melted clean and dry, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon and all that. But, we've had that kind of weather. And then the rest of the week, it's been either windy or, 30, high 30s, maybe at 40 degrees. No flying weather much at all. So, I mean, I look at it this way. I gave them, both carbohydrates and protein for them to get through if they're, with minimal amounts of food inside the hive. Now, some of the hives got plenty of honey. I didn't even put any sugar bricks on. Some of them, they were also kind of on the weak side. So I look maybe, I know of 2 10-framers right now that are, the cluster is very small. And if they die out, it won't surprise me. The nukes, they got plenty of food on top of them. One of them was eating a pollen patty. But when I did go out there to watch them fly, they were all flying. So the nukes, you don't see the bees because I'm not digging down there. I'm not taking any boxes off, but they seem to be in pretty good shape. So, hey, Granny, Lisa.
Charlie, what do you think you average for throwing pollen patties on? I think I'm about half a pound per. It averages out to be half a pound. But do you have any idea where you're at with averaging running through that feed cycle for you?
Let's see. I put a pound per hive already.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Now I had one hive that was super. I mean, when I raised up the inner cover up, I guarantee you there was at least 2 pounds of bees on the inner cover, maybe 3. And I put a whole pollen patty on that, and within a week's time of 7 days, they had eaten half of that pollen patty.
Okay.
So when I put more back on, I took a half, all I had left really, and put that in there along with the other half that was still in there. And that was one that it didn't need any sugar. It could have been okay, but I knew the weather was coming. I'm like, all right, well, let's go ahead and give them another brick or 2 just to have in there, just in case they need anything and all that.
So 40 pounds will probably do 2 passes through you then, you think?
Oh, more than that. Yeah, I'm going to buy this 40-pound box because I can pretty much tell. I'll have it for next year.
Okay.
I'll put it in the freezer. I had about 3 or 6 half-pound strips of pollen from last fall or last spring. I mean,
Excuse me.
I just kept them in the freezer, and then I just thawed them out, and put them in a hot box actually, along with the honey. Let them thaw out. They're nice and pliable, and they're warm. And I like to, when I put pollen on. Global has a lot. One side it's a solid piece of paper. The other side it's got a whole bunch of holes in it, and where the bees can go in there and eat them through those holes. And some people score it. I try to take it, peel that off as much as possible, and put that down on so they can come up from the bottom on the frames and eat it from the bottom up. And it seems to work fine.
Yeah, and leaving the top sheet on hopefully helps keep the hive beetles out of it.
Well, it keeps them.
We don't have them right now.
I don't really have them, but it keeps them from drying out. You don't want the patty to dry out. I used to use Man Lake, and they were a dark brown looking stuff. And I'll say two things. Number one, they put them on there. One year I went through a ton of it, but it didn't have, but it was cold or there wasn't any trees were not blooming. And then this year I went through it, but like I said in the previous live, is that I finally dialed it in for me where I live. The maple tree is the key. As soon as the maple tree starts to bloom, then that's the end of pollen substitute being taken down. And they are not going to use it at all. And also the nectar from that tree will start to come in too. And so I knew that in mid-March for me is when that happened. So I said, okay, that's why I said the 1st of February, start feeding pollen. And I figured I'm going to, depends on it. Right now things are cold. And like I said on this just a few minutes ago, the meteorologist for my local Baltimore region said February is going to be cold. It's not going to warm up anytime soon. So they're not going to be flying. And I want my bees to be banging on the roof and saying, let me out of here because I'm out of room. When I
come April. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times when I start doing my demery and setting up those hives, if they're that strong, I'm talking around the end of March is when I'm putting a honey super on to give them, not so much for them to fill it, but to give them room for the physical space that they need for those bees because there's so much bee population in there. And then
are you going to put a queen excluder on before you do that?
Yeah. I'm not gonna. If the population is just so overwhelming, I'll try to smoke them down. The first thing I'm going to do. This is my game plan. Smoke them down. Put the queen excluder on, and put at least 1 or 2 supers on right away. Come back in a day or so, and the bees should populate that area. And then if I could take those 2 boxes off as a unit with my hive lifter, and then I can get into the rest of those boxes. I need to take that top medium off that's the brood chamber and downsize that hive to just 2 mediums, or some people are running deeps, downsize it to just 1 deep for the single brood chamber part of it. And then I'll put that top medium, I'll stock it with all the cat brood I can find in the first 2 boxes and put that up on the top of the stack.
Hey, look at Jeremy's comment.
28 splits today. Woohoo!
Wow.
Yeah, well, Bruce, well, that's right. I'm just thinking, all right, yeah, Bruce is down there in, what is it, Mississippi or Louisiana?
Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah, he's in southeast Alabama.
So he's what, 70 degrees down there, 80 degrees?
He's probably in the close to 70, maybe in the upper 60s.
Yeah.
But he is a little ahead of us on split time and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
I figured you're all down in the same low area of the country that you all would be about the same temperatures and all.
I think I'm about 2 weeks after Joey.
Hey, Glade, welcome.
Nice thing.
How's things in Utah?
Jeremy said 70s.
Okay. That's cool.
Well, I can't wait for the 70s.
Yeah. And Glade, he put out a video. I watched his. He was checking, no, he moved his hives. I have to say one thing, Glade. That was pretty good way you did that as far as saving your back with having the empty boxes on the ground, sliding that hive straight across the hive stand, then being able to pick everything up with a hand truck and moving them 20 or 30 feet. And being able to put those boxes, all that stacked down on the ground, and then sliding that, hive across onto the where you put the new hive stand at. Hey, Doug. All right, 39C, that's 38 degrees Fahrenheit. And
Those are negatives, I think. Are they negatives?
yeah, let me see. Let me bring it up.
Negative 38F. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a negative.
Negative 22F. Woo.
Yeah, that's something else.
Wow.
Plenty of snow up there, I'm
Oh,
sure.
I'm sure it is too. That's cold.
And then there's
Can't mow in that weather, can you?
Not in a t-shirt, Joey.
Glade. That was what you did there in the video. I thought that was excellent for what it was. I was surprised that you were able to get everything about the same level between one area to the next. I guess you pretty much leveled everything out on the ground. Of course, it's pretty flat out there from what I could see on the video. There you go. Jeremy says you can keep your bears in cold weather. I'll keep my hive beetles. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't have any bears, I have to say. But from what I see of them beetles, boy, they're a pest. What a pest. When did you get in, Will?
What's this?
When did you get in down here?
Right about 7, quarter of, something like that.
Oh, okay.
I tried to get most of my driving done in the daylight, and I got out. I don't know. I got out a little bit after 4, so it was a good trip down. Traffic wasn't too bad. Everything was dry.
Yeah. Hey, Lloyd. Good to see you. Yeah. There's Lambrook. He's up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
20 inches of snow, ice, a balmy 18 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's cold.
10 to 15 mile-an-hour winds and gusts of 35. That's even worse.
Yeah, the wind. Whew.
Yeah, Big Mike called me the other day and he said he's been pushing snow for a couple of days.
Yeah, he does have there's a bee honey hat in it, Phil.
What was that?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I say, Tom and Melissa just noticed the hat.
Oh yeah, I took it off and showed it earlier.
Yeah.
Nice one, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's embroidered and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all never guess what I purchased yesterday.
Let's try to guess.
An easy loader.
Let's try to guess.
A Hummerbee.
It wasn't expensive.
Oh.
Sure.
Some queen cells.
No. I told you never guess it. I'll probably tell you in a couple minutes, but you ain't gonna guess it.
Another RV.
That's
A new jet.
I tell you, did any of y'all watch Horizontal Bees chat last night?
I was busy. I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
I listened to a little bit on record on the rerun, but I didn't listen to all of it.
Well, what I had already in stock, I hadn't used it in a long time until this year. I used just on a couple of hives. And if y'all remember, I told you when I did it. But I hadn't really used any since like 2017-ish, somewhere in there. I figured if I'm gonna keep it on hand, just in case I need it, I need to get me a fresh batch. So I ordered me a pack of that Easy Ox.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
There you go.
hey, Mike B's just stepped in.
Yeah,
You
he
got
was
a
in
new
there.
customer, Mike.
He's been here. He's been in.
Yeah, he's been in
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
I'm just now seeing him.
Who's that?
Unless he come in and left. I saw him earlier.
No, he's
At
there.
least-
He just said hello.
Yeah. I mean earlier in the chat, he said hi. Real early. Yeah, I went and bought me a pack of it last night because the stuff I got was something recommended to me, and the way they were talking last night, it's not really the legal stuff. So I said I'm gonna can it and have some new stuff on the shelf in case I need it.
There you go.
I bought the what is it? 40 Easy Ox Oxalic acid, the 400 gram pack.
Did you get the pills or did you get the dust?
No, you got the
The
powder.
powder.
Okay.
You're welcome, Mike. But yeah, after watching that, I said, you know what? I better, if I'm gonna keep it on hand, I better refresh what I got. Just get.
Where'd you get it, Joey?
I went to that link that they had posted. It was Nature's Image Farm. They had it posted. I said, before I forget it, I'm gonna go ahead and click on that and buy it. So I did.
Yep, there you go.
Because if I hadn't have done it right then, I'd have never thought about it again, probably.
Joey, were you part of that gang when didn't Greg bring a trailer load of stuff down and hooked up with Bruce and a couple? You were part of that gang?
Yeah.
It looked like that was you guys got a pile of stuff and went to dinner and all that stuff, didn't you?
Yeah. I had a blast.
That's cool.
Grammy, Mike's on here. He can answer your question.
What's
Sorry,
that?
Joey. Grammy heard Mike was going to have larger packages soon of Easy Ox, and he's on here so he can answer your question directly.
He's going to have 5 pound bags.
He's going to have the buckets too.
There you go.
That'll be nice.
How big are the buckets going to be? How many pounds?
I think that was a gallon bucket he had. I don't know.
I think when he was on my, he was talking about that, I believe, on my show.
5 pound bucket.
He was trying to figure out, trying to find the bucket that's going to keep it from getting dried out or wet and stuff like that.
Well, that bucket they got, it's the same style that you see when you go by like swimming pool chlorine or anything. It's got that. I don't forget. He's got the name of it, but it locks on and it seals.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing they store chlorine in. Same kind of bucket.
Boy, that's great. 5 pounds at a time.
Yep.
That's what we need for us big guys. Well, even for most people, when they're vaping, what is it, 4 or 5 times over a period, it takes a lot of OA.
It does.
I'm sure that Brad down there at Cajun Homestead will need some of that. I won't say how his recommended dose is, but
yeah, I think he blew my mind with his recommended dose.
Oh, that was my record. That was his recommended dose.
Yeah.
He says it's a ratchet lid.
Yeah, that's it. A ratchet lid.
Well, that'd be good if it's got that ratchet lid and that seal on it, because then it'd definitely stay dry that way.
What is a ratchet lid? Is that a screw-on lid?
Yeah, it screws on and it's got
it locks on.
It locks on and you turn it and it'll lock right down.
Don't they normally have a neoprene gasket in them?
It's
Yeah.
like you got to pull the cog out of it and turn it.
Oh,
Yes, it's
Yeah,
2 grams per box.
and Easy Ox is the only one that's got that actually written in the label.
Yep.
None of the other manufacturer doesn't.
Mm.
And all that.
Yeah, I was seeing earlier that Brian at Flower Street said he had a bunch of some kind of feed he was going to put on his bees. What did he say? It was way earlier.
What was he going to put on his bees?
Let's see if I can find it.
And Bill-
I watched him on my phone.
Bill, you're still looking at making something and putting in a caulking gun, right?
Yep.
Me?
No,
No.
me.
No, Bill.
Oh, Bill is. Okay.
He's going to drop in on Bill's show Monday and show us the bucket.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Come on in, Mike. You're more than welcome to be there.
Anyway, I was trying to see what that was. Brian probably could say it again, but it was some kind of like a fondant or something, or a pollen patty. But my question, what I'd like for Brian to come on and talk about is, he said he's got like 75 colonies and he doesn't want to grow. I wanted to know what his strategy for not growing is. Sounds pretty
really
difficult for me, especially if you're feeding them up.
Filling the trees with bees.
Yeah, I need to go set some swarm traps around his yards.
There you go.
Who was it saying? Who was that?
Ryan.
Brian.
Oh, Peabody.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that's the only way you can keep them from growing, is let them swarm.
Well, Ryan said he wanted to get into nuke business anyway. So
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, if he wants to sell nukes.
News full nukes and
Yeah. Pull nukes and let them go. Sell them cheap.
How much
Yeah,
honey
that's-
you gonna make this year, Joey?
He just said what it was, and I'm going to try that myself, but I'm going to grow a little bit too.
What'd you say, Will?
How much honey you gonna make this year?
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't know if you had any goals.
No, can't count my chickens.
He's afraid to say. He doesn't want to jinx himself.
I didn't mean to put you in a jinx position.
I want to make 1,500 pounds, but I don't know if I will.
Yeah.
yeah, I need to make about 1,500 pounds. I don't think so. I don't know. I'd have to put in some more hives, maybe.
Well, JT, you don't have any problem filling your swarm boxes. Not down there where you live.
I might move some bees on Sunday.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I'm putting 7 to 10 colonies at a friend's house to help him keep his ag exemption. So I went and scoped it out. He had bees there last year from somebody else.
Yeah. Hey, Rick. Good to see you again. You still down in Florida? Or have you moved back? Well, I guess you haven't moved back up to Kentucky. It's too cold.
I was wondering if Rick has got any bees out in California.
I don't. Yeah, Rick. Do you ship out anything in California to the almonds?
Dennis, I don't know what I did. It wasn't very good last spring. I went into the spring with like 32 colonies, and I didn't get but I think right at 1,000 pounds total. So that's not real good. 30 pounds or so.
Okay, here's Rick. So, still in Florida, can register to try to make some orange blossom. All right.
He said he sent 2 loads to California.
Huh?
He sent 2 loads to California.
I must have missed that. Oh, there you sent you. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So you sent 800 boxes out there then. There's about 400 boxes on a tractor and trailer. And there's Bracken. He's got about what? Bracken, what do you got? About 40 hives out there you took out to the almonds, something like that. And all that.
Brian, I'm going to try to grow by about 20 colonies.
Yeah, Brian's going to try to. He's got 20 pre-orders for nukes.
Okay, that's good.
20
I've got
colonies.
one,
That's what I
one
want.
pre-order for nukes.
Oh, he's got Bracken sent 36 out.
Mm.
And then I was talking to Bracken. He's going to have to take about 40 nukes out there. So the guy told him that he's going to have to do some splitting before he can come home. Because they're going to be in the trees or whatever.
Well, that's happy news.
Yeah, it is.
No, I want 20.
Maybe Bracken can split his and sell them to some of those commercial guys that are trying to recover.
You better take a lot of nuke boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can sell them for $400 a nuke out there,
I bet you they're not going to be willing to pay that.
No.
But I'll bet you that there's not. You know how there's a lot of bees that come off the almonds and get sold. Some people can get them for like $200 for like double deeps, ridiculous cheap prices. I think those days are gone.
Yeah.
And there's Brad, Cajun Homestead. He's going to try to go to 100 this year. And there's my friend Dinah. She's
Brad's trying to go to 100.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's getting
Right,
big
Brad.
time.
I just can't see myself working 100.
I can't. Well, they say if you can work 20, you can work 100.
And Dinah, she lives a couple counties over from me in Maryland, and she's got nukes for sale. I think Dinah, didn't you sell 100 or more of those nukes last year? I think she's really in the nuke business.
Who is?
Dinah Mundy, she's in.
Yeah, Dina. I think
She's a
probably
couple
how
of
she says it.
counties over from me in Maryland, and she sold a ton of nuke last year. She was telling me did quite well, and
Yeah.
yeah, he was going to
70.
Well, he was going to go out there, but he's got to go over that. I forget what the pass is through the Rocky Mountains. So
Yeah.
they shut that down so you can't get through. Donner's Pass. That's where they
Donner Pass. That's where the Donner party had their picnic.
That's where he had to chain up his trailer on the way
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, he had bought something like
$300 for chains.
Never even
$300
heard of
chains.
such a thing. Whew, chaining up a trailer.
Yeah, they really.
I guess I'm just a flatlander.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. They were looking for him. That's for sure.
Yep.
Donner's Pass. That's right.
Yeah, Rick said something about the bird flu being connected to the CCD. Fred Dunn had Blake Shook on, and he said that all the scientists are saying there's no way that could be.
What's that?
Bird flu and the
Oh,
CCD.
But Fred said that the bees they've determined bees can actually transmit it through the feeding process, but they can't. They don't contract it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
we'll
was
figure
just
it out.
curious what we were all seeing. You know what I mean?
I have not seen any issues whatsoever of anything. I've
Yeah.
lost
Nothing
one
yet here.
colony, and it was a late swarm.
I've lost 2 since fall, and I got another one I was expecting them 2 to die because they were weak going into fall. And I got another one I was expecting not to make it through the winter. And I hadn't even went back to that yard and looked in about 2 months. So there's no telling what I got over there.
Yeah, I don't want to, but they're saying this came on pretty fast, so I'm not going to try to. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be bragging.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Well,
of course
that's the other thing is all these bees coming back from out there. It's going to make you pause a little bit if you were going to buy any bees that come back
Yeah.
from California. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, some people saying that it seems like it's just happening to the commercial guys, but that's what you're hearing because it's such big numbers.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're not hearing about me or anybody small like me losing all their colonies.
Yeah. Unless you report it to your state apiarist. If you do,
Yeah.
make sure you report it, and you
Yeah.
report it to the USDA as well, because then it'll get recorded.
Yep.
There, Dinah, she started out with 14, made 50 nukes out of them, and still had 10 colonies left over in April.
Golly.
Jeez.
She does real good, I have to say.
Yes,
Boy,
she does.
that is
She's
real
doing
good.
that.
And what she hasn't said is that she has an issue, a handicap hip issue, and but she actually got somebody to come in, do the splits for her, sell it for her. She had to hardly do anything. And
She's got it figured out then.
oh,
like
she
she's smart to
knows
me.
how to, she knows how to do it.
She's
That's
got a
capitalism. That's the way it works. Get somebody
Yep.
else to do it for you.
There you go.
She knows to play it and all that. Let's see what else we got going on here. What do you want? Huh?
He wants you to pick him up.
Come on up here. Come on up here.
We got another visitor tonight.
See here, I'm going to act like Brad from Big Apiaries. I got my big cat. Now you don't need to take and dig your claws into me
See, I got to hold on.
and all that. You want to purr for the microphone?
I'll be curious how Brad up at Faith Apiaries makes out with the loss that he had. You know, he really lost last year and then rebuilt. And
Before
everything
us,
else.
too.
I'll be curious where he's at come spring.
Yeah, I hope things work out good for him.
You know, he's got
Yep.
bees inside and outside and all kinds of different places. So
Hey,
Have y'all
Todd.
talked to him lately?
He was on live today with Bob. I didn't get a chance to
Oh,
look at
was
it.
it?
I saw where they
hadn't
went
either.
on.
I didn't even know they were on.
Yeah, they were on for a little bit.
There's Mr. Todd. He had a grand time out there and with Tom and Melissa and everybody at the Missouri conference last weekend.
I hope they checked him for ants before he came into Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melissa should have checked behind his ears and everything.
Probably dipped him before they let him come in.
Yeah. We're gonna have to start calling him Ant Man. Todd the Ant Man.
Then Todd's talking, I guess, out there. he got an inch of rain, or no, they said up to 2 inches.
Other things.
I mean, it ain't a big deal around here. I don't know. My biggest question is, I would like to know why the ground out there slides around, or it washes out. I don't know whether it doesn't absorb, or is it the type
Where
of
is that?
whatever.
You mean all those burn scars out in California?
Well, they'll have landslides and stuff like that. And there's Will. There's Brad. Thanks for.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There he is.
I'm crossing my fingers, hoping things are going to turn out good.
There you go. See, no, I need it. He will ship ants to anyone for free.
Yeah, he's already tried to send me some. I got ants. I don't need any more.
I've got fire ants, but I had never seen them bother my bees.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I had something in one of my beehives the other day. It was full of little tiny, partially developed roaches all over the top of the frame. The bees weren't even chasing them. And it had good population. It wasn't like they were taking over or anything. I did have a few cases. I've been using that Reflectix on some of my colonies, and it's been sitting there for months. And when I peeled it back, there were a few places where those little beetle gels would have like a wax moth larva or a small hive beetle larva, but just one in that little gel where that was. I thought that was really strange.
Yeah, I would say so.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not so jealous of your Texas weather.
I mean, the bees weren't letting it go anywhere.
Yeah.
It was trapped in there, and I guess feeding on the propolis and stuff they put in there.
I don't know. It seemed like Todd's ants out there seem to be quite aggressive.
It's got to be something besides a fire ant, I think.
Maybe it's an Africanized fire ant.
They look kind of a not dark red like our fire ants, but kind of an orangey color, from what I could see on his video. I don't know.
I don't know. He's got those wool traps, and that's supposed to help. And then,
he said some grass had grown up and it bridged across with what
it was.
Yeah, that's what he said in his video. And he just sat there and squished them after he mowed.
Hey, Joey.
Hey.
Down there, that Bruce Jenny, he had a wax dipping video a while back where they took one of those propane torches and they like burned the outside of the box to bring the grain out, and it looked pretty fancy. And then he dipped them. Have you seen any of that stuff? Is that a thing down there?
I must have missed that one.
Okay. Because one of his buddies was a wax dipping guy here. It was probably a year or two ago. And they took a propane torch to the outside of the box, and it just, it darkens the grain, the pine.
Well,
and then dipped it, and they looked good, but I didn't know if that was a thing or not.
Well, as far as the torching, yeah, I've seen that done.
Just to get the color of the
not
grain.
necessarily in bee boxes, but I've seen it done. Like, here we go again. I don't want to get started talking about the prisons again, but they used to do that.
You did spend 27 years in there, didn't you?
Yeah, you did.
The hobby crafts used to do that all the time. They would torch any kind of little mounts or anything they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They would torch it, and it was actually prettier than staining or anything. It's beautiful
if you can run the torch right.
Yeah. You got to. It's a gift too. You just don't grab it and start burning it.
I had a gal. She would buy some pine from me, and she would torch it like you say, and it was smooth wood. You know, it was plain and dry material. But it was like you say, Joe. It was crafty type stuff because she was at a arts festival, and it really the knots would pop out.
Yeah, it brings it out.
Yeah, the knots and the grain really popped it out. Now, from the best I can remember, when you do that, it actually, I'll say, caramelizes the wood or something of that nature.
Hardens it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of protects like sort of like a natural barrier type of thing, and all that. So it could be a possibility of something positive towards you.
Now
Okay,
I've seen some of these guys building swarm traps, and they'd torch the inside of their boxes. Those swarm traps.
Yeah. Any reason of that?
I think it was just to kind of unfreshen the scent of that wood, the new wood.
I think that's right. Make it not so new smelling.
Yeah.
Okay, Soapstone Farms has on there that they torch and dip all their hives. So I was just curious with having that dipping tank, if that would be a thing. You know what I mean? If people would.
Yeah, that's JW.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you could talk to JW about that.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of selling boxes or anything like that, but if I'm
this is a good idea, Will. It smells like California.
Charlie, come on now.
That was bad.
Luke.
That was bad.
Oh man, too soon. So I went to Home Depot. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Melanie's got something.
Say, I went to Home Depot to buy some paint, so I decided to check out the Oops paint, and they had 4 or 5 5-gallon buckets of semi-gloss exterior paint there for $30 for 5 gallons. I couldn't make myself buy it because it was a light pink color. So,
why not?
There you go, Will.
Yep.
Melanie down in Florida. You can look it up through the Japanese technique of preservation.
Philip, talking about that Oops paint, I have bought some over the years, and it's always been weird. I mean, I know it's Oops paint, but it seemed like they were already going after a weird color to start with.
Yeah.
Anything I've ever found.
Well,
but I know some people that seem to be able to find a nice looking Oops paint for a beehive. And I think I done figured these people out. They go in there trying to get a certain color, make them mess up on purpose, and then come back later and buy it as Oops paint.
You might be right. But,
so I went back 5 years ago. I went to Home Depot and bought barn and fence paint. Right, it was Oops paint, and it was white. And the guy that returned it told the guy at the paint counter it's the wrong shade of white.
Well, what's funny is that on the 5-gallon bucket, it said it was a white paint it started out with. I'm like, well, why? It messed up like 4 or 5-gallon buckets of that stuff. And I asked her, I said, are you allowed to tint that? Because I was going to have her put some dark blue in there and come out with kind of a lavender color, and which I would have been fine with. But she wouldn't. She said they won't let me touch it. It's got to be sold just like that. And I thought about going and buying a quart of dark blue, and pour it in there and see what happens.
See it tonight, Taro or Randy.
See if it toned that pink down. I mean, it was a real light colored pink.
I've seen a couple of them too, Philip. I just can't do it. Can't do it.
I did get I actually got lucky. There was a gallon of gray that's really close to the gray I use. The only difference is it's a flat paint, so I don't expect it to hold up as good. But it is a good quality, just the premium Glidden. Yeah, so I got it for $9 instead of $48 for what I usually buy.
If it's flat, that's a good primer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
like my flat paint.
So I'm gonna be putting some on tomorrow. We'll see. There's a color called Oops Purple.
It's called what?
Oops Purple.
Oops, purple.
Yeah.
But yeah, the paint I usually buy, that industrial enamel, it's up to $48 a gallon now.
Wow. So are you brushing, rolling, or spraying?
Rolling and brushing.
That's what I do. I brush it on and then I get it in the handles with maybe a throwaway brush.
Yeah.
Yeah, I roll it as much as I can.
They must be some kind of markup on them paints, because we used to get what they called state contracts. And Sherwin-Williams, we had a state contract with them for years, and we'd go buy paint to paint out there at the prison, and it averaged our paint. Some of it would be $9, some of it might be $12. Most of it was close to around $12 a gallon. And I could get it occasionally if I had the right salesperson. When we'd make an order, I said, "Look, can you throw me one on there, and I'll pay you with my card?" And they'd do that with me. Wasn't supposed to, but they would. But I could go down there as just a normal person and buy that same paint that I paid $12 for, about $25 or more.
Oh, yeah.
And you know they're making money on the 12.
Yeah, or they wouldn't do it.
Yep. Yep.
Dennis asked me if I put any cover. No, I don't do anything, Dennis. A few years ago when we had that snowmageddon and it got down to single digits a night or two, I did put a little. I cut some that pink insulation and put it in there, and then wrapped them around it too. But I only had 5 colonies then, so no, I'm not doing anything now. I have a little bit of insulation in the top of mine. All of mine. Well, not all of them. I got some nukes that don't have any. And they seem to be doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I got some nukes that are built out of 3/8-inch plywood that are doing really good. They need to be. One of them I actually moved into a 10 frame, and another one needed it. But I didn't have a box with me at the time.
And we'll say hi to Matt. He just popped in. Lynn, she likes the eco wood. I don't know. I've heard good and bad with that.
I like the Eco Dip too.
All that.
I wish somebody around me would do wax dipping.
Well, there's a business you can get into.
There you go.
And talking about that, our newest, greatest dipper in the state of Pennsylvania is Will here.
All right.
We'll see how it goes. I don't have my wax yet.
The problem I'm going to have, no matter what, is I don't get it all built at one time. I build it along the way, and most people that have wax dipping want to do it all on one weekend.
Well,
I wasn't really thinking about doing it for anybody else, just myself. But then talking to Bill and Charlie and a couple other people, there might be some interest or make it available for the club down there in York County. So I think I'm going to just set a couple dates and put it out there to the club, put it out there on Facebook. And if somebody wants something dipped, get a hold of me. And these are going to be, set up a couple dates, because everybody's going to be getting their wooden gear, like the York County Club. They just did a big order up over there to Martinsville, and trying to group together and get a more of a discount.
Yeah, I heard about that the other day when I was up there.
Yeah,
I'm a believer I'm a believer that you need to try to make a little bit of money in a lot of different ways. That way, when you have a down year in one thing, you're covered in another. So
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it out there, and if I get anybody, I'm hoping to have something up on my on my
Take
website
and
about it.
do it yourself and get some experience to see, tweak it in for you.
Yep,
you
I
do
have
that.
I have all that Rossmann gear that I bought that I got a bunch of it put together now. So my first round, I'm gonna just throw through a bunch of that, and I'll break out the propane torch and try some of that and beat up
did
all my own gear first.
did Randy already do his? He was doing a wax dipping. Randy, Tar Heel Bees. Randy, he was on here earlier.
Yeah.
I wonder if he did his and how that went.
How much is it, Randy? You know it yet? You know what kind of price point?
I think he already left.
You better watch out, JW. I'll bring him up to you.
Yeah, as far as wax dipping cost, man, there's a guy out in Carlisle, which isn't far from me, and it's like $4 for a medium. No, wait a second. It was $5 for a medium, $6 for a deep, $4 for a bottom board. You know what I mean? Were the kind of numbers I'm thinking. You just, I'm thinking about just saying it's $5. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, just kind of shoot the middle, and that way I'm not
$5 a piece.
Yep, $5. I don't care whether it's a deep, a medium, a shallow, a bottom board, whatever it is.
Melanie in there wants to know where did you?
I got my wax from Canada Wax.
Out of Canada, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's called Canada Wax, and I think they're the ones. That make that Hive Guard product. But I'll know when I pick it up. It's kind of doing it the old-fashioned way. I send them a check, and then they'll let me know and hit me with the shipment information. I'm actually going to go pick it up. They have a warehouse in Philadelphia, which, is only about an hour and a half from me. So I'm just going to drive out and pick it up.
Yeah. You need to call Nancy. She's got some product she wants to sell you while you're driving by.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
I owe Nancy some honey from down at the show. So
Yeah, well, she's got a couple buckets of feed that she'd like to get rid of.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. $80 a bucket.
What was Hilco selling their stuff for? It was about that, wasn't it?
That's where it come from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Will, I got asked this question. I probably already know the answer, but I got to ask you anyway. Do you give a discount for bulk?
I'll do something, but I'm not going to put those numbers out. You know what I mean?
Oh God! Yeah, he'll soak up that much in wax.
Squeezing. I'll tell you the other thing I'm trying to decide is talking to the factory guys on this dipper. There's a double dip you can do on it too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm thinking about setting it at a flat 5, and if anybody wants a double dip, you know what I mean, trying to figure out what that would be. So
you can work out a deal with Bill. He's got all kind of product you might need.
Well, I was thinking about that on the way down, Bill. We should have worked something out, and I should have at least drug a trailer load of stuff from Martin's down. Yeah, I mean, I drove right past his place, and I'm coming to yours. Where are you?
For Thursday.
I had to unload it all afternoon.
I put him to work.
So Charlie was drafted into that.
He had to work for his supper.
There you go.
Will, the guy that I used to buy my first couple of years that I bought wax dip boxes, the boy that I used to buy from, he wasn't about 40 minutes from me, but that's when the bee box equipment and everything went up real high a few years ago, and he quit doing it. He would still do the wax dipping, but he didn't resell and dip boxes and resell them anymore.
Right.
But he said he'd still dip, but he'd have to have a minimum of 50 boxes.
Yeah, to heat that up.
To justify firing that
burning the propane.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you
he
need to
said he
get that.
needed a minimum. I can't remember if it was $5 or $7 a box. It might have been $5, but it was 50 minimum and all clean wood.
Yep, all new stuff.
Yeah, all new stuff.
And what was it? Somebody just asked a question for temperature. I haven't got my wax, so I haven't started doing this yet.
That was Brad.
The factory's showing the factory information is showing me somewhere between 300 and 320. Now the guy I bought the unit from, he cranks it up to 350.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what Tom was
what
saying
he was
there.
doing. Yeah.
Tom was saying 350.
Yep. But well, I was buying wax dip boxes. I mean, I bought a lot of them, and I was paying $22 a piece for them, and they were waxed, but they were a nice box. I mean, all you got to do is pick them up and put them in service. But
Yeah. And then Matt must have came in late. He's dipping in, what's it called? Crystalline? Wax.
Microcrystalline.
yeah, I'm doing a mix. It's a mix of the paraffin and microcrystalline.
Yeah.
I'm expecting it to be that
There you
Hive
go.
Guard product.
Melanie says takes Dennis, her husband, 6 hours to melt the wax.
Yeah.
I was trying to see what VIA honeybees was saying there. It was moving on me.
Minimum number of equipment to dip and clean wood only at $6 per piece.
Yeah.
Now they do talk, like I say, I'm going off what the manufacturer's saying right now till I start playing with it. But they do say that you can dip a box for 8 minutes to sterilize it. So maybe, do you look at the end of the season to sterilize some stuff? Maybe offer that. I don't know. That 8, I don't know we'll have to see how this little pilgrimage goes at this point.
Yeah. I guess Briggs has proprietary temperature.
I would imagine if you dipped used equipment, you'd get a lot of trash in your wax.
Well, that's why I would do the end of season stuff, because after you've already done a lot with your wax and it's, getting ugly.
I don't know, everybody that I know, some folks up in Pennsylvania that do it around Chester. They're pretty much, it's got to be new stuff. They will not do anything.
Yep.
And I think you'll mess up your wax maybe with that trash in there.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a ball valve on the bottom where you can drain the tank then when you're done. And I've seen where guys will drain them into like a tote, spray it with mold release, and you can drain it in there and then you can store it and you don't have to store your tank full. And I would assume that you could run that through a stainless steel screen, to try and get some of the big junk out of it, but your wax is going to turn color. So here's a man that's going to have the answers.
Well, it's best to get it up to about 350, 340, 350, because as you're putting the wood in and taking it back, putting the wood in, the temperature will drop down to about 320. And then after the boil of 12 to 13 minutes, it will raise back up.
Okay.
So if you run at 320, then you're getting down too low.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
Same process with
wood.
frying a turkey. You got to get the grease hotter than you want it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some of that. And
Okay.
I used to use 50-50 paraffin and microcrystalline, but I found that boxes during the hot summertime would slip and slide, and you get a waxy feeling on your wood with the paraffin.
Hey, there he is.
The microcrystalline soaks into the wood, and it doesn't have that waxy feeling to it like the paraffin does on your box. Plus, its melting point is 180 degrees. So it never gets that hot in the summertime, but the paraffin will actually melt at 130 degrees. So if you get up to a 90, low 90 degree, 95 degree day, in full sun, that paraffin will leach out of the wood.
Okay.
I've seen it.
Okay. Yeah, and
So
I don't know what the mix is going to be. I mean, I went back to the factory, and like I say, this is my first time playing with it, so I'm relying on what they're selling me. So we'll see what it is.
Sure, it's almost 50-50 when they mix it. So I bet it's 50-50.
Okay.
I think everybody's got away from the rosin, using the rosin in
The
it.
gum rosin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a man with a whole bunch of bees in the snow.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that was.
that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop back off.
All
All right.
Thank you, Tom. I'll let you know how things progress.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds good. I hope to dip at the end of the month. It's supposed to go up to 42, 45. I mean, yeah, next weekend. So one of the days I'll fire up the burner and
Sounds good.
I can't remember what year that was. It wasn't recent. That picture.
Brad, you got experience with, I mean, you take your stuff to a dipper.
Yeah.
Did you ever find out what they do up there as far as temperatures and stuff like that?
Oh, I probably asked him at one point, but I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm going there in a couple weeks, so I could ask.
I'm jealous that you're able to dip those skids like that. That's got to be great.
Yeah, it really helps them last a long time. Like I started using those pellets in, well, it would have been 2016, I think. And the oldest ones, they're looking a bit old, but they're not rotten at all. They look like wood that's been sitting outside a long time, but they're not rotten. They're still perfectly fine. It's a good treatment. It's a really good treatment.
Do you get your boxes and migratory covers and stuff? Do you dip all that as well?
Yeah, I buy the boxes dipped from
Okay.
them. They're the box manufacturer, so if I buy boxes, I'll just buy them straight from there. They're already dipped, but I'll take my covers at the same time and have them dipped.
That ought to make a huge difference on those migratory covers too.
Yeah,
Nice.
same thing. The old ones, you can tell that they've been out in the sun a while, but they're still in good shape. They're not rotten. I don't have a lot of warpage problems with the covers or anything. They're in really good shape still.
And that's plywood, isn't it, Brad?
3/4 inch plywood, yeah.
CDX,
CDX.
which I think is the exterior glue on the plywood.
I don't know what CDX means really, but it is an exterior waterproof glue.
Okay.
The stuff they're using down here is called RTD now. They're getting away from the CDX. It's supposed to be sealed under higher pressure, I think.
Yeah, this stuff has no, like, it's not like people talk about the MDO and HDO plywoods. That has resin layers in it. This stuff that I'm using is all wood. Like, it's just bonded wood. There's no high-tech layers to it. It's not typically a really nice finished surface. Sometimes it's pretty nice, but not guaranteed, because it's really for, sheathing buildings and stuff. So it's always stuff that's going to be covered up. But one nice thing about it is it's really, honest to goodnessly, 3/4 of an inch thick. So it's nice to work with for dimensions, whereas a lot of the plywood I'm working with is, 11/16 for the most part. By 3/4 inch, and it's 11/16.
And I think I've heard that the more plies, the better in it.
Yeah, typically the more plies, it adds stability. You can buy stuff around here anyway. It's called Baltic birch, and it has, in a 3/4 inch piece, it'll have probably 12 plies in it.
Wow.
Lots of plies, and the thing about it is too that there's no voids. So if there's a knot hole or something, they don't hide knot holes in the middle of it. So if you cut it, then you're not going to have those voids show up.
Yeah.
But it's expensive. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And the stuff I buy, I don't buy it often, but I've bought a few times. And it's weird size. It's a 5-foot square sheet, which is odd, I think. And
I found a
expensive.
guy outside of Carlisle that's selling a 4x8 sheet of 3/4, and they're calling it CDX, which I think is the waterproof exterior glue. I found him selling that for $30 a sheet. I think that's
Okay,
pretty good.
CDX. Now,
Yeah.
does that mean that it's a C grade on one side and a D grade on the other side?
Yes. And that with exterior glue. Yep.
That's
That-
what I was using last year.
Is
That's
it?
really nasty plywood. At least the
It's
stuff I
got the
was
voids
using.
in it. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
more
Got
than
a lot of
void.
voids
It's like it's a lot of plies missing, and now this is the stuff I was using. I'm not saying that that's what your
No,
buddy is
that's pretty
offering
tough.
you
That's
there.
pretty, even with the what they call the RTD, which is really just the newer version of CDX, you still have all those voids. It's not ever really intended to be cut into pieces.
Oh,
There's voids. This stuff is almost cull plywood. This stuff I got last year. I got a really good deal on it, but I ended up wasting so much of it that it
I've had to
didn't
go in and
save me
squirt glue
anything.
between the layers and clamp it
I've
down
done
to
that.
try to keep it
I've
from
done
getting
that.
delaminated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I've done that.
Yeah,
I do it a
yeah,
lot.
because it's the plies are delaminated when I
Yeah.
pick it up. It's terrible. I bought 2 skids of it, and I've got more than half a skid left, and I won't build stuff for other people out of it anymore.
So what grade plywood do you look for then?
Yeah, I don't know what the stuff would be called. It's a heck of a lot better than CD. Probably the bad side is C. Yeah, I don't know what you call it. Like the one side of the plywood is actually really doesn't have any empty knot holes or anything in it.
Most of the
The-
BC plywood now is exterior glue. They just don't sell it. They don't call it that.
Yeah, might be that. I got some a couple of years ago. I was actually using some of it today. The store where I bought it, I guess they had a hard time getting plywood, and they shipped me a lift of. It's almost cabinet grade. It's beautiful, almost like sanded one side kind of stuff. It's just gorgeous. So that equipment is premium equipment.
I've been
Brad, have
thinking
you
about
ever-
buying 10 sheets of that RTD because it's only like $33 a sheet right now. It hadn't been any lower than that in the last 5 years, and it's been up to 80 at times. And I'm worried with what's going on between Canada and the United States with these tariff threats that lumber is actually going to go up, probably in both countries.
Brad, with your dipping, have you ever seen that when they dip a box, it boils the glue out of some of the joints? Have you ever seen any of that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I have used. Here's the magic of dipping. I did a few years back. I made some of these. I call them double fives. You take a 10-frame box, put a divider in it, and I was really unhappy with having a divider that was any thickness at all because they just get so tight trying to get those 5 frames in each side. So I got some material at the hardware store that was so thin. It was 3/16 thin. The problem is it's actually a subfloor that you put in, put in on a floor before you put carpet or something on it. And but that stuff doesn't have the waterproof glue to it. It's actually like Luan, and Luan is awful.
It is Luan sold as underlayment.
Underlay, yeah.
You
It's worthless.
breathe on Luan and it'll just go like that.
It's
right?
not even cheaper than 1/4 inch anymore.
No,
It's
but
about the same price.
here's the deal. I put that stuff in my boxes. I glued it in, and I sent it to the dipper, and that stuff sat. I've used it for years. It sat outside in the rain and in the snow and the sun and everything, and if you didn't physically damage the Luan that's in there, it didn't delaminate at all.
That's good. That's
So
great.
the glue or the wax dipping, I guess, just made it not absorb any water, I suppose. There's something to it because, yeah, they never deteriorated. It was weird.
We were talking about it earlier, Phil. I grooved some 10-frame boxes to try and split them like that, and I split them with the Coroplast that we were talking about earlier. I would just run a cut through on either side and then slide that coroplast down in. I got away from it though. It's too tight. Like Brad was saying, it's just it's too tight. It's a pain in the butt to work them.
And you know, I was talking about this on our live stream this afternoon, and years ago when I started beekeeping, I didn't know anything at all. So I was reading everything I could find. I was following different people and some YouTube, but mostly reading websites and whatnot. And one that I read extensively was Michael Bush. And he has a pretty good section on his website about comb spacing. And in his beekeeping, he actually took all of his frames, and an end bar on a frame is typically 1 3/8. Some of the plastic ones are a little bit less. And he actually took all of his end bars and trimmed them down to 1 1/4. He's got a pretty good article on natural comb spacing, and basically the comb spacing is proportional to the size of the cell. So what that means is when you get honeycomb, generally naturally built honeycomb will have a larger cell, a lot like a drone cell, and then a brood comb will have, other than the brood the comb that they want to raise drones in, it will be worker size cells, will be smaller. So the spacing actually changes in that relation too. 1 3/8 is kind of a compromise between the sizes, because natural comb can go from 1 1/4 to 1.5 easy, natural spacing. So I'm thinking, gee, I wish I could just find a really easy way to trim all my frames down to 1 1/4, because for one, I get an 11th frame in my 10 frame box, so I'd have an 11th frame. I'd have 10% more feed in my winter brood chambers, and I'd have 10% more space for brood in my single in the summer.
Brad, I remember seeing top bar guys doing that on YouTube years ago. They would have like 1 1/4 for their brood frames.
Yeah.
And 1 3/8 or better.
Yep.
Out where the honey goes.
Yep.
I remember that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, because 1 1/4, I space. I have my fancy stainless spacer tool, and when I put a honey super on that's all drawn, I'll space it out in 9 frames anyway. So it really doesn't matter what the top bars or the end bars are for spacing, because they're not touching. So I've been trying to think of a machine. It kind of involves a block plane, but I need some kind of a guide that I can put on a frame in the field. So it has to be manually operated, no electricity or anything, and that I could just shave those end bars quickly as I work and get them all shaved down. I can't conceive of that in my head, though. I don't know how you build that.
I thought you had developed like a board that had like a slot in it that bar could go through there, and you had it pre-measured where you could take that plane and just as a guide cut that edge off.
I made little sleds that I can trim new end bars on my table saw. That's all I did. But once they're built in a frame, I can't do a whole lot with them. I mean, you can still trim them on a table saw, I suppose, but the problem is you're sure not taking very much off of it, and theoretically you're taking a 16th off each side.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take it all off one side, right? Because you want to keep the thing in the center, and not all frames are the same, so not all frames have the same width top bar, which is really what you need to reference to do this, because you want to keep the top bar in the center. So yeah, I don't know. If anybody knows of a machine or a way to build that little machine, it's just a guide for a block plane, I think, is what a guy could use.
Work on that, Philip.
I don't know when it's easy to do if you're just building your end bar, you just build them smaller. But if you're having to do it in the frame,
and I can trim them, I have these little sleds that I built that I could just put 3 of them at a time and through the table saw. Well,
I've
and then I have to
accidentally
turn them
done it
around.
with a hive tool.
Yeah, you usually take a full quarter off when you do that.
Mess a whole good frame up.
Take it all the way down to the top bar.
Because when I started building mini mating nukes, they were basically half the width of a box anyway. So I started trimming those to 1.25 inches, so I could get 5 frames in those with plenty of management space, and that worked perfectly. That's a beautiful little system.
I'll tell
So
you what, you got me thinking because it is hard for me to get 5 frames on either side of my divider piece. They're
cut 'em
crammed
down.
in there.
Yeah, 1.25 inches.
They're
1.25
crammed
inches
in
works
there for sure.
perfectly. Now I don't know, maybe if I made a bunch of 1.25 inches and ran them in my brood chambers, maybe over time I would think, well, maybe there's something wrong here. Maybe it's not working the way, maybe there'd be a problem. Because Ian got me thinking one day, he said to somebody, yeah, you make me an 11 frame brood chamber. And I got thinking, we got 10 frames, right, that are 3/8. You take 1/8 off each frame, that's 10/8, which is 1.25 inches, which is your 11th frame.
Yep.
Well, and it's 1/8 of an inch off each side of each frame, right?
No, it's each frame.
16th off.
16. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
1/8 per frame. So it's 10/8
Okay.
for the 10 frames. So that's the perfect size for your 11th frame.
Did anybody see? I thought I saw somebody was offering some type of, and for lack of better terms, I'm going to call it a block plane for running down the sidebars of the frames to clean the propolis off. Was somebody making something like that or coming out with something like that? You guys see that anywhere? I thought LaRobbie or somebody was coming up with something.
Yeah, I
Not
thought
a
I
prototype.
saw. Yes, Robin. Rob's got something like that.
Yeah, it's like aluminum block, and it's got to be
Aluminum
built
block.
like a block plane that you can just run down across to clean all the propolis off.
I
Yep.
just don't know how that would work without taking the wood. I mean, you can sometimes gouge the wood when you use a hive tool, like Joey said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had that at Nobby. I saw that.
I like to take my hive tool that has the right angle and just drag it straight down. That usually doesn't cut the wood and pulls the propolis off. Because if you use the other end, it's going to split your wood almost a third of the time anyway.
Let's see, if you use plastic frames, you don't have that problem.
That's right.
Yeah, but you have a myriad of other problems.
I'm going to use a few plastic frames. I got 52 that I bought from Bill this year that I'm going to use. Tried to buy another 52, but he had packed up.
He doesn't have it on his website yet.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. There was somebody, LaRobbie was making
Yeah,
something.
LaRobbie.
Yeah, he just doesn't have it on his website yet.
Yeah, okay.
Todd House said he got one from Rob.
Okay.
Yeah, I could make something, a sled that goes through my table saw pretty easily, but then all my frames have to come into the shop. And
No, this was just a little
pretty big
handheld,
ask.
just a little handheld plane, like you could just run down through them. I'll be curious to see what it's all about.
I'd be
a little
interested
nervous.
if you could take that and modify it to actually shave that 16th off of that end bar.
Oh,
I'd be a little
with-
nervous,
with a-
Brad, because it seems like that frame would tilt on you and catch the blade and just go flying if you weren't real
Well,
careful. With it.
it's a bit of a sled to put the thing in this sled that goes through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, you have to be careful, right? Because
Yeah,
things
that
get
thing-
unstable pretty fast. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you take a small block plane, which would be, I've seen them like for fiddle makers. Now they have these little teeny ones like that.
Oh, you can get them. They're tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, real tiny, real tiny.
Yeah.
How about if you you can set the depth of the blade. Will it always cut the same amount off?
or less.
Yes, but not all the end bars are proper 3/8 of an inch. So you really need to work with what you want to achieve instead of what you're starting with, right? You can't
Right.
reference how wide it is and say, I'll take this much off. I mean, that's the way I think. Sure, you could do that, and it would probably work just fine.
I think I'd have to grow another arm out the center of my chest to help hold the frame with bees on it, going crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to slide a plane along this. I'm pretty sure I need that other appendage coming out the middle.
Step one, shake the bees off. But Charlie, I'm kind of overthinking it because I think your suggestion would likely be the best way. Take a 16th off. Leave it at that. Because they are what they are now, right?
You could also, you can get a battery operated belt sander, make a jig, and you go within your turn and go zip, 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 zip. You're
just
done.
kind of run it over the belt.
Well, you would have a jig that you would fit that ear in a slot,
Yeah.
and it would come down and hit bottom out, and every one of them would be the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you didn't want to get fancy, I know I have a DeWalt little palm sander, with like a little 2 amp hour battery. It's not too bad to handle. You could hold that frame and just run it, back and forth, 60 or 80.
You got to be able to gauge it.
Yeah, you can't gauge that. You're right.
If you could put a small belt sander with a battery operated and have it in some type of a jig that he could take out to the field, and you just put it in a, that shoulder would go in a slot, and he would just push it like that and would bottom out on the jig, and then everything would be the same. And you're only taking a 16th off. So if you had a 60 or 80 grit belt,
Yeah.
it ought to take it off
I'd
every
rip
year.
that off in a hurry.
Yeah. Well,
Well, there you go. See, I figured it out for you.
you figured it out.
There's James Lee there. Talk about riffraff.
DC's kind of onto something with a router. You probably could take a trim router and figure out how to make a little guard around where there's only a 16th inch of the blade exposed. Have a guard and just lay that right on top of your frame and just run it right across the top.
Yeah, flip the frame upside down and run it right through it.
I don't know. That'd be routers. I don't know. It'd be a lot of spinning.
A router wouldn't upset the bees at all, though, would it?
No, not a bit.
No.
It's like,
The
let me
palm
just turn my
sander.
No
router
real
on.
short pants. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be wearing short pants.
Yeah, short
With a
pants.
belt sander beside the hive. Wouldn't matter if it shook off the bees or not.
Yeah, when my son and I went out there, I was expanding the yard, and we had a bunch of concrete blocks, and he was walking out there, and he was just dropping those blocks on the ground, and they were like 6 feet away from those bees. Man, that thud of that concrete block hitting the ground, those bees came pouring out of those boxes. They were trying to figure out what's going on.
I bet he didn't drop any more blocks after that, did he?
He went and we both ended up putting our jackets on to finish up. And what's wild is that we had, I think, 11 colonies to go through in that yard. And I waited till the very last to do that one that had poured out like that. And by the time we got to it, they were not bad. The vibrations and all had stopped, and we were digging through them, and they were flighty a little bit, but they weren't coming at us, with their like darts like they were before. So yeah, it was just something we were doing they didn't like. That, and it was like an hour later, I guess, but they'd calmed down. I just assumed they were just going to tear us up, so we waited till last.
So what's the bee report, Brad? Anything? I guess you really don't have any.
Not really. I don't fuss as much as some.
Have you looked inside at them at all?
Very few,
Okay.
very few, and I've seen some live colonies. I've seen some that look pretty good. I've seen, a couple that don't look good at all. I've seen some dead ones. So, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Do you get the bees laying inside on the floor like Ian does?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of drop.
Yeah.
Which is normal.
Okay.
It's kind of a good sign, right? Because dead bees don't fly out of the colony.
Yeah. Frozen, starved out, dead bees don't fly. Yeah.
Yeah. When you look in the entrance, if you don't see any dead bees on the bottom board, that's a pretty decent sign. If you see dead bees on the bottom board, that's a bad sign because that means there's nobody alive in there to clean them out. So, yeah, I'm just kind of living my life until it's time to go get them, and we'll see. I did speak for a few packages this year just in case worse comes to worse. We'll have a few. We will see. I appreciate the concern, though. It really was touching. Turn on the live and
Is
hear
Bob
that.
talking about he swept your bees, Brad?
He didn't sweep my bees. He swept Ian's bees.
Oh, Ian's bees. Okay.
Yeah. So my bees are not good for him. Good enough for him. So your dead bees are not good enough for me. Somebody needs attention here. So okay, let's go.
There's somebody to keep you warm.
Old man. Here's my old man. He turned 18 in November.
You know what we need to do? Y'all don't tell nobody over there in the chats. I've got a cat almost that same color. And I've seen several other people with them. We need to get our cats organized one day and let it sit in one person's lap and then leave, and then another person's lap. And leave.
Maybe we'll just put all the cats up. Pictures
Like
of
we
all
all-
the cats.
like
right?
we all-
Picture of the cats up for everybody.
Everybody can hold the cat.
The cat. It'll be the cat
That's
chat,
funny.
Charlie.
That's a good idea, Joey.
Yeah, we can call it
That'd be
the cat
hilarious.
house. We can call it the cat house.
Cat house. The cat house is in session.
There you go.
Want to make the rounds?
I had a big cardboard box set up for our cats about 5 years ago, and I had the cat house wrote on it. My wife made me paint over it.
That's like the little old lady who would give every couple months she would give a $2,000 donation to the church. And then one day the minister asked her, she's like, "That's very generous of you, but I know you're on a fixed income. How can you give that money?" And he said, "Well, about every few months, my son gives me a
That's not fair.
$20,000 check." And he said, "Well, boy, that's a lot of money." He said, "You don't mind me asking what's his profession?" She said, "Well, he's a veterinarian." And he goes, "Ma'am, I know veterinarians are a very honorable thing to do, and they make a little bit of money, but I just don't know any veterinarians that can afford to give their parents $20,000 every few months. What kind of veterinarian? He must be a specialist. What kind of veterinarian is he?" She said, he runs a cat house in Vegas."
Veterinarian.
Veterinarian. He runs a cat house in Vegas.
Yeah. I thought it was called the Mustang Club.
Mustang Ranch.
The Mustang Ranch.
Charlie, I have no idea what you're speaking of.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
I was out in Vegas one time. They all just come up to you and give you cards.
Is that your story, Will, and you're sticking to it?
Yep.
Driving through town one night, I stopped. It was a nice summer evening, and I had a little car, no air conditioning, so my windows were down. I stopped at the stop sign, and this lady of the evening walked up to my window, and she says, "Hey," she says, "you want to go out?" And I looked at her and I said, "But I am out." I drove away before I could get hit. It's like I don't have to go out. I am out. That's a true story too.
True story.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Philip, you see Tom's question?
Aren't you housing a lot of girls?
I guess it's bees.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. In that way, yes, I am.
That's cool.
When y'all see Mike Berry, if you hadn't already heard him talk about it, just ask him, does he go to a place called the Sugar Shack every month?
Well, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Will he blush when we ask him about that?
He might. We got a restaurant called the Sugar Shack out here close to me where we have our meetings. It started off like a little donut shop, and it grew into a full-blown restaurant. And they just kept the name the Sugar Shack. And the first time we talked about going there to eat, Mike Berry said, "Where are we going? A gentleman's club or something?"
Yeah, go get there. You're just going for the buffet.
Yeah, just
Nothing
about
else.
that.
Something else.
I took JW and Tom to the Sugar Shack twice. We actually went twice.
Where did you guys go for your big meal, Joey, when Greg and all those guys, you guys were all together? Is that a local place?
It was local to Bruce.
Oh, okay.
It was a Mexican place, but I can't remember the name of it. It was nice. It was all good too.
Where did you have breakfast at? I think you guys are saying you went out for breakfast too. Was that in the hotel?
Who, us?
Yeah, you, Joey. I think it was. Or
No.
I don't think you weren't. Yeah, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
out there in Missouri.
Yeah, Tom said, see what Tom said, Joey, that place serves great chicken. We went out there that evening, that day at lunchtime to eat chicken, and all they had was fried catfish.
Hmm.
Did it taste like chicken?
No, tastes like fried catfish.
That did me in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's I don't know. I don't hear too many people eating catfish around here.
I think that was on a Friday. They have different things during the week, and catfish was their main menu for lunch that day.
It just depends on where you get the catfish. Some places it can be great, and some places it can taste kind of muddy.
Yeah.
So, Brad, you've got some packages coming, and you're going to just whatever dead outs you have, knock the bees out and drop the packages into them. Is that your plan?
It's not really the plan. And no, you never know what's going to happen. But like I said this afternoon to somebody, I usually make all these big plans and then everything kicks into high gear and everything goes to crap, and I just do what I have to do. But the kind of explanation is that, boy, my beekeeping seemed to be a whole lot better when I was a brand new beekeeper. Thinking, what's different, right? I've been trying to nail down what's different. And, well, one thing's different is I had a lot more newer equipment then. So I'm thinking, you know what, let's go radical. But take some equipment, scorch it with a torch. Don't just get rid of it and buy new. We'll put some, clean it up real good and get some nice new frames and put these packages in these boxes just like I did 10 years ago. Feed them lots so they can build comb and see what happens.
Okay.
I've got a yard. I'm planning to run about 16. Just the way I run them, it kind of is multiples of 4 suits me pretty well. So I don't know if I can manage that, then that's what I'll do. Sort of set up this yard at 16 and put some packages in there and see what happens. Got to solve this somehow. Like, it's just a great big mystery, and I think it's just high viral loads. That's all. But what do you do about high viral loads? We're always trying to kill mites. Nobody knows how to kill viruses, though.
Yeah, you could do some shook swarms, but that really sets you back on honey production.
Also, the dead bees.
Well, so that's a grand experiment you're going to do. Well, it'll be curious to see how that works.
Yeah. It will be interesting. And I'll do it at this separate out yard so that they're not near the bees that I have here at the home yard. So there's no viral contamination, perhaps, between hives, that sort of thing.
My question is whether the viruses are actually in the wax themselves.
Yeah, well, see, that's the idea behind the new equipment, right?
So you're gonna have to you gotta start out with foundation and go right from the get-go.
Yep. Which that's what I did my first year, right?
Right.
They went in with no comb. They built all their comb. So, we'll just have to feed them lots, and they should be able to do it.
Well, yeah, and that the renewed health might overcome the extra work they have to do.
So the other thing that I used to do, I did it for my first 3 years, so it would have been 15, 16, 17, is I was doing drone removal for mite control. Drone brood removal for mite control. And it just got to be too overwhelming, too much work with a growing number of colonies. So I kind of stopped doing it. And I think maybe at least some strategically performed drone comb removal, maybe just before honey flow, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, Ian and you, the last couple of years it's been rough up there.
Yeah,
Not just your stuff, but Ian had major amounts of problems.
Yep.
And other folks that you're in your area, you've been saying that they've been telling you that they've had lots of problems. I think.
Well, now they're saying it in California. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's related or not, but
it was 23 that Ian and I both had a pretty major nosema problem, and some fumagillin fixed that up. And then 24, then again, the winter after I used the fumagillin to get the nosema under control, that's the winter that most of my bees died. So who's to say, right? So then last year, everybody knows what happened there. 22, I did okay. 22 was a big loss in the province, but I actually did okay.
Are you managing your bees different now than when you maybe had less colonies or smaller, or do you think you're managing more or less, or do you think you're managing the same?
That's the big question, right? I'm sure I am managing them differently. But there may be a dozen small things I'm doing differently, and maybe some of them I haven't even identified yet. How I place my pallets in relation to one another. You know, I've kind of changed that. Maybe that's a mistake. Yeah, it's just, and you only get to try it once a year. And if you change too many things and it works, so you don't know what worked.
Yeah. So you mentioned you had a nosema problem. Was it nosema apis or nosema serrana?
Serrana. Yeah, I'm told there's really not any apis around anymore. And I had that. Like, that cost me a lot of money to have the species tested. And it came out 100% Serrana. So, but it went down, you know, nosema very low. My nosema count last fall was, you know, statistically nearly zero. There was some nosema found, but very little. So I'm happy with that. And I didn't treat for it this year.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting experiment, especially with, you know, old comb versus new comb and all that stuff, or no comb.
Yeah. Highland Honey says he date stamps the frames and puts them in and out of service in rotation. I do that, except I don't do it by date. I don't mark the frame. I just kind of do a visual on it to see how old it is. You know, if it starts to look a bit. And none of my frames look, you know, nasty, disgusting frames. It's just that I'll take, every time I put honey boxes on, I'll take the worst frames out of the brood chamber and put brand new honeycomb in its place. And then I'll just pull those up into the honey super. And once they hit the honey house, then they go out. When they come out of the extractor, they just go out. So I do that every year. Like, I'll take at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 every year out of the brood chamber.
I started out putting that date on the year on my frames, but then, you know, the next year, half my frames and the bees didn't draw out. I had the date from the previous year on there.
The wrong date now. Yeah.
And then 2 years later, there's a few more that still do.
And really, you know, honestly, I think the condition of the frame, and I mean the comb, is really what we're looking at. So I think you can eyeball that pretty easily. And it's a relative thing. Like I say, none of my comb looks really, really nasty. I've got no comb that's 50 years old, like some of the old timers, you know, might have. But it's relative. I'll take the worst 2, right? And if there's a third or a fourth that looks that bad too, I'll take those as well. So every 5 years, the brood chamber is rotated.
Yeah, I took 2 of mine last year. I was going to do a full shook swarm, but I noticed they had 2 or 3 frames that were virtually new. So I left those in, but I took all the old ones out. And most of those were really black. They were frames I'd bought from the beekeeper I got my first bees from, and he had kept bees for 7 years before he ever sold them to me. So they were, you know, could have been 10 years old.
So shook swarm, you just shake the bees and the queen onto new comb? Just
shook, I just shook them out in front of the colony and put frames in there, let them crawl in the door.
What kind of frames? Drawn frames?
No, they were foundationless with starter strip.
Okay. Because
bees got a lot healthier for sure. Because I was starting to see some like European foul brood and stuff in those really old frames.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Some kind of coffee looking
super DFO
larva.
I've had it evaluated, and I was told it wasn't EFB, but it kind of appeared a little bit that way. Twice, I think, and I just burned the hive. It just meant so much to me to steer so clear that, you know, I've got 100 colonies, or I've got 150 colonies, and this one has this, whatever it is. I just straight to the burning pit, the whole thing.
Well, when I looked at it, I looked at mine, and it didn't look like anything terrible to me. It was just it was not pearly white. It was kind of a coffee color. And it wasn't a lot of it. It was just here and there. And then I saw Mike Berry had a video the next week. I was watching his video, and he had the bee inspector out, and he said, "Yeah, that's European foul brood." So I just right then went back out there and did the shook swarm, and
It was a larval stage infection.
yeah, it had none of it had been capped, and there was no problems with the cappings. But the comb was really old and dark, smaller, really tiny cells because they hatched so much in there.
And that's something that, you know, I think is really important that newer beekeepers identify whether, like, you can see normal larvae and normal cappings. And when you see something that's not normal, you really got to question that. And there's some diseases that will attack in the larval stage, and some will attack in the pupal stage. And one of the worst ones in the pupal stage is AFB, of course.
Right.
So if you're seeing a disease that's in the larval stage, then you can at least breathe a sigh of relief that that's not AFB.
Yeah, it could be sac brood or.
Yeah, I had I had one colony had a pretty good chalk brood infection last summer.
That you said one hive had chalk brood or
Just one. Yeah, I don't see a lot of it, and that queen came. Well, I was going to say that queen came from elsewhere last summer, but pretty much all of my queens came from elsewhere last summer, right?
No, I was just thinking, you know, with chalk brood, I mean, maybe like, you know, that's what that super DFM talks about, you know, curing that kind of stuff. I don't know whether it's any good or not, but.
Well, it's a fungal infection that I think comes from the queen.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys just requeen. It rears its head in the spring when this colony is stressed, and, you know, cold weather, humid weather, anything that you would expect a fungus to thrive in.
Right.
I used to see it quite a bit when I was bee inspecting for the province. I would see it in colonies from other beekeepers, but I haven't seen it much here.
Right.
I may have seen it twice in 10 years.
Okay.
Not a worry of mine at all.
Right. Well, guys, it's getting pretty late. It's almost 10:30, and I've been up since really early this morning traveling, and we got to get up tomorrow morning again. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the chat down, and we'll see you all next week, same time, place, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. So until next time, have fun with your bees.
See y'all Monday night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care.